This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara Schmoisman. Hi, you guys, but welcome back to coffee number 5. Today, I was thinking about my clients, and I was thinking about all the meetings I have not everyone that I meet become my client because I'm not a good fit for everyone. They are not always a good fit for me either. So I believe in transparency, you know that. I believe in finding that we are a really good match and I can help my clients. But lately during the COVID staycation, I will say that to name it somehow, I found out that a lot of people were trying to take advantage that they weren't going on location to work or their work slowed down, and they try to become an entrepreneur and try to have a side hustle or become that side hustle their full-time business. Somehow also I think it's the fault of a lot of the marketers out there that they were really smart and they created all these programs that you can do it, get 1,000 leads in 1 week and all that. It's wonderful, but it's not realistic if you are not putting your time, your money, and most of that you have the knowledge to do it all. So today I have a special guest for you guys, and this is a treat for myself too. And I have Gene Marks. He is a small business owner, a columnist, podcast host, keynote speaker, and of course a CPA, which is really important to understand what we do with our money. But I invited Gene, and welcome Gene to coffee number 5.
Thanks for having me on. And I've got my coffee, Lara.
I'm so glad you do, because I'm planning to chat with you for a little while. And because we were chatting a little bit before to start recording the podcast about seeing this pattern of a lot of people trying to try their hand into entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And, I have so many thoughts on this, so you need to stop me from talking if I talk too much, but because you bring up a topic that has been so near and dear to my heart for so many years. I run a business. I've been running it for almost 25 years. It is, I have 10 employees, you're about 600 clients. And I just want to be clear that, and they're all family owned B2B companies, whatever. Running a business is not a romantic thing. I am not, you see the media in Hollywood likes to show like Anne Hathaway in Brooklyn, the sexy entrepreneur, running the business with Robert De Niro as her intern.
Yeah. And always the hair is perfect.
Always great. Yeah. Always great. Yes. When in reality, the typical small business owner looks like this,
So or like this.
Yeah. So it's a hard job. It is thankless. I just want to be clear. And there's many benefits. You get a lot of control over your life. You can make some money, all that good stuff. But in the past 25 years, countless people have lied to me. They have betrayed me. I have employees not show up to work, employees, customers not pay my bills. When people wish you well, when you start up a business, they'll always do that, but it's a cold world. Then you're out there scraping and scrabbling for customers and money. And it's hard. It is really, really hard.
I think you're going to resonate with this, but I always talk to my brother about being a business owner, being a risk assessor.
Yes.
You're always assessing what risks you can take. How many people can you hire? How can your budget, your cash flow? Yeah. There's so many things.
Yeah. And people, when they work, you had mentioned this in your introduction that, there are a lot of people that were working from home during COVID. There are a lot of people that during the pandemic, and they had their corporate jobs. So they started up side gigs, and now they're thinking like, should we, maybe I can have my own business, doing this. But I tell you something, when you have a job at a corporation, if you don't feel like working that hard some days, you can get away with it. You still get your paycheck. You have your health insurance. You have your retirement being paid for. You can move your way around, your company for a while you can't do that when you're a business owner. Like you have to work because your last, I have one client, his worst day of the year is New Year's Day. Because he always says to me, no matter how great a year we had last year, I'm starting all over again this year and I'm exhausted because it's back to the fight. You know what I mean? It is that is what it's like when you're running a business, and you have to realize that all of that is on your shoulders. The other thing is what people don't realize about running businesses is that it's it's not a romance, it's math. And I can say that as a CPA, like my best clients know how to buy something for $1 and sell it for $3. They know their margins, they know their costs, they know their P&L, they know their inventory.
And it's not about making $10. It's about making those $2 or
Yes.
1.5 and make it in quantity.
That is exactly right. And when I talk to and we have 600 clients in my firm, and then I have a lot of people that follow me online that I talk to, and a lot of people that read my stuff in the Guardian and the Hill and wherever. And I can tell you this much, Lara, there is nobody there that says that running a business is any kind of a romantic thing. And none of my clients say they're trying to change the world. That's only on TV and the movies. We're going to build a business to change the world. You're running a business because it's a challenge and a puzzle, and it can be fun and good, but it's your livelihood. You're trying to make it.
But like I told you before, it has to be the right fit. Like when you find a match or you find a CPA, you need to find someone that you can be transparent, that you can work with.
Yes.
And the same being a business owner or entrepreneur is about enjoying it in one hand, but also feeling comfortable for the role. If you're going to be miserable every day, I mean, for me, it's a huge commitment have to pay people every end of the month. It's a huge.
And it's funny, if you just look at a typical small business, with one of the most common small businesses in this country are like restaurants, So I often meet people that like to start up a restaurant. And by the way, do you wonder why 4 out of 5 restaurants fail in their first 5 years? Because there's a lot of chefs that say like, oh my God, I'm going to change the world. It's going to be great. I'm going to make my great food and everybody will love it and love me and I'll have a successful restaurant. But no, there are people that you have to hire that aren't going to show up to work. There's taxes, there's permits, there's regulations you have to fill. You've got to market your restaurant. You got to deal with inflation and cost issues that all restaurant owners are dealing with right now. That's even before you actually get
and waking up super early with the deliveries.
Correct. You have to accept your deliveries very early. You've got to stay there late. You've got to clean the place up. You've got, God forbid, somebody throws a rock through your window because you're in a city in an area where something like that happens. There's just a lot of headaches to running a restaurant.
And also with the people complaining about the food, the ratings, the marketing. It's like people are going to put a bad review with you online because they just didn't like the service or because your waitress was having a bad day.
Correct. And so we're saying all these things, and I don't want people to get discouraged from doing this. I just want them to understand the reality of what it's like to run a business.
But I love that you put it as an example restaurant, because I always use the same example for marketing to a restaurant. And because I say, when you're going to have a restaurant, you're going to plan a menu, you need to plan a menu. So you can buy the ingredients. It's the same in marketing. You need to plan what you're going to offer and when. But also people don't understand, having a restaurant, it's not about the love of food. It's a business. It's about
that it's 100% right. I mean, sure, you should be passionate about what you do. And yes, it must be, I'm not a cook, but it must be incredibly gratifying to do have great food that people enjoy. I mean, that's a wonderful thing, for a business to have. But like you just said, in the end, it is about all the costs that you have to incur. It's about a refrigerator in the middle of the day going out, and suddenly you got to spend, $4,000 to replace it, money that you don't have, or there being a pandemic that shuts you down where your local legislators don't let you reopen or have people sitting in it. You've got all those things to deal with, to run that business. You have to be a business person first and then a cook after that, because if you don't have that attitude. Now, having said that, I do want to say, for those that succeed at doing this, the ones that get that and they balance it, running a business like a restaurant or any small business, you do have a lot more control. You do have the ability to make some money. You do have the ability to figure out puzzles and get good challenges and work with great people and be your own boss and not have to answer to a boss. You answer to thousands of bosses, which are your customers. There's a lot of really great things.
But also being a boss or being a business owner, meaning that if even a cook that doesn't show up that day, you're going to have to fill it up for them.
That's correct.
Otherwise, you don't have a business running.
Yep, it comes down on you. Now, we talked earlier. We were talking about like even if you wanted to sell online, because a lot of people
I want to go to that, because there's so many people that they're trying to go into the online business.
And it's
crazy.
It is, there is this thing that people have to realize, and it's just funny you bring it up, because I have a good friend who works at a big company in New York. And she has been, she created like some, clothing that she sells from her website. And she was asking me about like some advice because she wants to open up an Etsy store. Now, remember, Lara, she has a full-time job already at a company, and I said to her, I said, listen, sure, you can open up an Etsy store. Go and Google Etsy tips. And there's plenty of people that will tell you how to do what you got to do on Etsy. But it is to succeed on one of those online marketplaces like Etsy or Amazon or eBay. It's like a full-time commitment. And it's not
so much work.
There's so much competition. There's so many things that you have to know. And then you need a budget, because how are people even going to find you on Etsy? All of these
platforms. Of course, you need the ads money, but also just for everyone who's out there in the agency, we work with marketplaces as well. And you don't know, I have specialists for Etsy. I have specialists for Amazon.
Yes.
Each one is their own language and each one has their own rules. It's so much, and they change all the time. Like we guys talk about how Google changed the rules all the time, or Facebook, the same, but it happens with each platform. So having an idea for a business, it's great. Anyone can have an idea, but if you don't have a plan how you're going to execute things and the knowledge
and the money.
In the money.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you said that, because I said to my friend, I said, listen, unless you quit your job and devote yourself full time to this Etsy shop, which I don't advise that you do, what you should do is you need to hire a specialist, like you just said, Larry, because you're right. You can go on LinkedIn and find a consultant that specializes in Etsy marketing, designing the right Etsy site. That's somebody that's familiar with all these platforms, have all these tools available. They have, marketing, tools. They have the ability to do search engine optimization on that site and advertise on that site as well. But I mean, come on, I don't know how to do all that stuff. Like, nobody knows. You have to be a specialist to do that.
I mean, even me having an agency, I understand the basics. I'm training myself all the time, but I have specialists for each one of those things, because otherwise I cannot do it all. And my team really specialize in those things, and it's crazy because you need to be changing the picture. Oh, let's see if this picture works better or this picture. Let's see if these keywords, what our competition are doing, and then you're gonna have competition copying you, and so you have to be always on the go.
100%. And it's funny that you mentioned about which picture works best and because a lot of selling on these online marketplaces is doing a lot of A/B testing, doing a lot of metrics, seeing what is working, what is not working, tweaking your advertising, tweaking your design. This takes time to do. It's an investment and skills to figure that out. And it just, some people think that it's like Field of Dreams. You remember that movie with Kevin Costner? Like if you build it, they're not just going to come. Yeah, they're not going to just come. Like it's going to be a thing. And you also bring up a really great point, which is that it got good for you if you're successful. And then the more successful you get, you'll be punished by a lot of competitors noticing your success and then copying you and taking away your sales. So you've always got to stay one step ahead of all of that.
Right.
So it's a lot of work to do. And I don't know if it is, Lara, like just maybe it's the media or the general culture that just makes it seem like, I can be an Etsy seller and make millions of dollars.
I think that there were people that they were really smart in the pandemic. We were all online a lot in the pandemic.
Right.
And there were a lot of marketers really smart who said, we can do this training for this. And offer you to be successful doing something, a side hustle that they can leave your 9 to 5. Like, I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have this great recession right now.
Right.
And I was reading an article actually that all this Z generation, and I'm completely freaking out because I have 2 Z teenagers, and that they think that there's overnight success. They borrow money just to get or buy brand things and try to sell it in Amazon, but then they're forfeiting their education for doing this because they think that they're going to have success overnight. Do I believe that everyone needs to go to college? No, not everyone needs to go to college, and it's not for everyone. Not everyone needs to get in a huge debt. Anyone needs to choose their own path, but you get in another kind of debt if you borrow money to start a business that you have no metrics or no knowledge to run it.
whenever I talk to people, and so many people have asked me this over the years that want to start their own business, and whether it's a restaurant or whether you want to sell on Etsy or eBay or you want to do, open up your own, whatever you want to do, you need capital to do it. And there's two types of capital that you're going to need. One is you're going to need cash. You're going to need money. So, and rather than going into debt, like you just mentioned, because that's really risky. The smartest entrepreneurs that I have met, they build up savings over a few years, from their jobs or whatever. And they realize the fact that they're going to make no money while they start up their business for anywhere from 2 to 4 years. I mean, no money, which means they better have money saved to pay their bills while they're building up the business.
Or another income coming.
Some type of income. And so some people have a spouse, for example, that works. So they got the health insurance and the income coming in while this spouse, then is growing the business. But you need capital. It's a capitalistic society. You need capital to start up a business. So one is money. The second type of capital, and you mentioned about the other person working, is you have to realize that, if you are married or you have a significant other or partner, you have a family, to start up a business, you are going to be consumed by it for those 2 to 4 years as well. Like 15-hour days consumed by, which means missing baseball games or graduations or things on the weekend or being irritable or working late at night. And you better make sure that your family, that your significant other understands that and is on board with that decision, because if they're not ready, if they're not on board with that, if they're not prepared for the sacrifices that need to be made, then it could really rip apart your life. So those are the things you need.
I always say that we need, in order to be an entrepreneur, you need to know your resources. And for me, there are 4 pillars, which is to know your time, how much time you can put into your business, how much your money, your budget for your business. The next one is your team. Yep. Because you're doing it, and in case you were mentioning about your friend, are you doing it? Are you hiring someone to do it? Yep. And those is your time, your budget, your team. And the last one is your knowledge. It's really hard to manage a team if you don't know what you're doing, or it's just going blind and paying someone and not knowing how to read the results.
Great advice. It is great advice. And those 4 pillars are absolutely true for anybody that's starting up a business. And I just to expand on what you just said, when you mentioned your team, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and hire 50 people. It means, you could have freelancers or independent contractors or somebody that helps you, whether it's from the financial side or the marketing side or some type of expertise that you like the expert at Etsy, for example, but you have to pay that person. So you have to have the capital to pay that. You have to invest in that person to allow that person to go and do their, to do their thing.
It's the same, for example, when I'm going to go and hire a CPA, I don't know how to do my taxes. I have 0 clue, but I trust that person. You have to have that trust. And what I have found out, like lately, people are hiring in this digital world, a lot of people without knowing really them, and also with a lot of people overseas, and not knowing if the results are white hat, like we call them in marketing. So this can risk your business a lot. Yep.
It's funny, Lara, I think the only way you can learn that lesson, because I've learned this lesson. I've hired people in your business, marketing, technology people that just did not deliver what they said they were going to deliver, didn't know what they said what they really knew. And I'm just convinced that the only way you really learn that is by losing money on it,
Well, I have another option. That's why I started a coaching. It's not a coach, it's a consultancy program that I will hand with those entrepreneurs that they're not ready to work with an agency, but someone who can supervise that work that they're doing with freelancers. Because I had so many people coming to me burnt out of bad experiences. And it's so sad for me to have to go and say all this money that you spend is for nothing.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a very, very good point. And I'm glad you brought it up. But it is it's one of the many things that entrepreneurs have to deal with. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it is. And also it's part of, if you had that budget and you badly spend it, without knowing those resources, your business is gone.
Correct. That's right. So you have to think about all that kind of stuff in advance, and you have to be realistic about what the limitations are of your time and are of your knowledge. The other thing is I also see a lot of people, it's like they cut off their nose despite their face. You know, they spend their time doing stuff to save money. And all it does is it costs them. Like, you know,
oh my God, I'm so glad that you're bringing that up.
Yeah. You know what, the number one, I see this all the time, and I say this because I'm an accountant, I guess, but like, I see like, you know, people starting up businesses and doing like payroll on their own. They've got 10 employees and they're doing their own payroll because they don't want to pay for like a payroll service to do it for them, you know? And I think to myself, like, what are you, crazy? I mean, for what it costs for a payroll service to handle all those headaches, you know, you can focus on your business. You know, you want to be spending time with your
That's
customers.
what I bring up with time. I mean, how much your time is worth.
Yeah.
Being good at what you do instead of trying to do, I mean, I could do design. Potentially I can do design, but it doesn't mean that I should. Or I work with a lot of doctors also. And I see this that, for example, a lot of people feel like they can do their marketing or their taxes many times. That because there are some tools, so they are like Instagram, anyone can use, TurboTax, anyone can use. And I always say the fact that I can go and buy a surgical kit doesn't mean that it should be performing surgery.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I feel the same way about my time as well. And whenever things come up, the first thing that crosses into my mind is who's going to do this for me, you know, because I just, you know, there are things I like to do, you know, professionally, you know, in my business. And then I don't know, I like to play squash, or I want to watch.
Well, I think you'll reach that point after running your business that at some point you realize, oh my God, it's so much better if someone else does it than me.
100%. And that was the biggest, you know, it's funny. I started my business back in 94, and I was in business with my dad, and my dad passed away like in 2005, and it was really just him and me. And when he passed away in 2005, I knew I couldn't do it all. And I was providing services, like we were selling software. We still do now. And I was the guy going out there to like install it and set it up, you know, that was many years ago. And so I made the jump and hired somebody to come on and do that work, you know? And I remember a lot of clients were like, no, you know, we only want Gene, or we're used to Gene coming out and screwing up our computers. So we'd rather have Gene continue to do that. And yeah, you had to pull myself back a little bit. It changed my life. It changed my life because Lara, there's, you know, if you can only make so much money if you're doing stuff on your own, but the more people that you could bring in with certain expertise,
oh my God, hiring a bookkeeper changed my life.
Change your life, right? It was
changed my life. And then at the end of the year, they give everything to my accountant. Yeah. Everything is clean. They have like 3 questions for me, and my taxes are done. Yeah.
And you think about all the time you were spending back in the day doing your own books, and no offense, you probably weren't very good at it because that's not your expertise. I was horrible at
it. I'm sure that I lost so much money because I wasn't tagging things right. So the deductions weren't right. I'm sure. Right. And
I'll give you another example. I had, speaking of bookkeepers, so for years, I was like doing collections. Like I would get like my accounts receivable, and I'd be like following up with clients if they fell behind on paying their invoices. Not only was that a lot of time I was taking, it was like affecting me physically, because I'm like, what the hell with this guy? We did the work 2 months ago and they still haven't paid. And it was like making me so frustrated and angry. And this was like 15 years ago. I said, enough of this. And I gave it to my bookkeeper and I said, listen, I don't want to know unless it's really far gone. You know, you do the collections, you follow up. And my bookkeeper, she's amazing. And she's a very even-tempered person. And somebody that just, she could call up these clients and pursue them without any agenda. She didn't get emotional about it because it really wasn't her money.
It wasn't her money or her business, and that's perfect.
And that was fine. That's exactly right. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because now I don't even, rarely does she come to me and be like, this person is still refusing to pay. Now it's like she deals with all of that, and I don't even have to think about it, and I can just focus on, you know, my business. And frankly, I was pissing off my customers when I'm going after them for money as well. It was not good. So
you're starting ruining that relationship.
Yeah.
Many times, that because you are there to be their consultant and not to be chasing them for money.
Yes.
So separating those roles is a good thing.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And, you know, these are all, I know I'm not alone in this because these are all the things that I write about every week. And then I get responses from business owners, around the country that have the same issues. And it's hard when it's your baby and it's your business and you want to do everything and be involved in, have your fingers involved in everything. But I'm telling you that you can make a living if you just want to do it yourself or keep it really small and, you want to be involved in everything. But if you really want to make money, you got to bring other people into your business and trust them to do what you're hiring them to do. And they will make mistakes. They will make mistakes, but overall, the cost benefit of doing that.
And your sanity.
Yes. And your sanity. It is, I just can't say enough how important it is to have, like you mentioned, the 4 pillars, having that team, to be able to rely on so you can focus on what you do.
Like, listen, I went on vacation like for 4 days, 4 working days plus 2 weekends. Yeah. And I was, for those 4, I'm still work. I still was overseeing things, but I had people to rely on. And I knew that my clients they didn't have anyone to go to.
Yep.
And that was important to me. Before we go, Jean, I want to touch base on something else that we were discussing, and people are freaking out. They say that the recession is coming.
Yep. So I write and I speak a lot about this, and I want people to understand there is a slowdown that is coming later. I'm seeing it with my clients right now. They're reporting to me, drop-offs in orders and a slowdown in their business. Right now, you and I are talking in June. I'm looking second half of this year, maybe like the first quarter of 2023, we're going to be seeing a slowdown. It might even be an official recession, which means 2 quarters of negative GDP. And we've already had one. So it is. The message that I have for all of my clients and also all of your viewers and listeners is, you don't panic. This country has had 20 serious recessions in its history. Businesses have been going through recessionary periods since before Cleopatra. So this is nothing new. And this is not a great recession issue that we had back in 2009. There are things going on with inflation, and we're going to be seeing higher interest rates that are going to be making the cost of capital higher, which is going to be limiting investments. That is all going to have an impact on growth in this country. My advice to all of our clients now is they should be, leveraging their CRM systems, their customer relationship management systems, and making sure they're in close communication with their customers so they can be alerted of any lead time issues, any pricing issues. Keep your customers close is very, very important. Leverage your accounting and ERP systems, because that's something we didn't have back in inflation in 1980. My smartest clients are raising prices specifically on some customers and some products and some product lines, but not doing it across the board. They're being very, very careful about how they raise their price because you got the data to be able to figure that out. They're entering longer term contracts wherever they can, trying to fix those rates of interest. They protect themselves from your rising costs, and they are investing in technologies. And Lara, I'm seeing this across the board, that cloud-based applications and even technologies on the manufacturing floor have become so affordable for so many businesses that to make the investment, a perfect example, I went to the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas like a month or so ago. And usually, you go to check in at these hotels and they're like a nightmare with the long lines and whatever. They used to have like 15 people behind the desks checking you in. Mm-hmm. There was one person behind the desk, and there was a dozen self-service kiosks instead. And you put in your confirmation number and you put in your driver's license, and it spit out your room key for you. Amazing. It's amazing. And Paris Hotel, it's a hotel. I realize that it's a large hotel, but it is that self-service. I mean, those kiosks probably cost them $100,000 a piece. What does an employee cost them over a period of 5 to 7 years? A lot more than that.
Well, and those kiosks work 24/7.
Correct.
And they don't get sick.
And they don't take health insurance, and they don't ask for PTO, and they don't ask how they should wear their hair or their uniform. So there's a lot of benefits to doing that. And with this whole, great resignation and disruption in jobs, that has accelerated all of these technologies. And so I'm seeing people using drones in their warehouses. They're using automated, carts around their warehouse to like move stuff around instead of a forklift.
I think all this is fantastic, and we really should use it more and more. And as in marketing, we use a lot of software just to make sure that everything is correct. But there is something that it's never going to change and it's never going to get old. That is the work ethics.
100%. 100%. And the work ethic is, it's funny that you say that as well, because when people are asking me about where to find employees, and I'm going to write about this next week, because I was speaking to a guy it was at a windows and doors conference. The guy he's a company that sells windows and doors. He says he never has a problem finding people, Lara. He says that he just keeps his eyes open. When he goes to restaurants and he goes to retail stores, he says frequently I'll have like some young kid serve me dinner, and like he or she is like fantastic and enthusiastic and has a great attitude, is really good. And he goes, I hire those people. Like I go up to him afterwards and I'd be like, I can teach you how to sell doors. That's easy. I can't teach you to have a good work ethic.
Absolutely. And I find out that it's really hard to get people with strong work ethics.
Yep. And you'll find them when you go.
Absolutely.
Because there's this whole thing about people complaining about the Gen Zers. It sounds like you and I have kids around the same age. My kids are in their mid-20s. I think it might be
a little younger, but they are.
Yeah. So they're like, in their mid-20s. So they're all like Gen Z, whatever. Whatever you read about people complaining about the younger generations, and people have complained about younger generations since there's been younger generations. We always complain. There are plenty of hardworking kids of that generation. And I'm telling you right now, I go out to eat. I live in Philadelphia, and I go to restaurants and stores. I see many people in their 20s that are working their asses off at what they do. They're good, and they have good attitudes, and they have a good smile. And when I see people like that, my wife just hired a woman who worked at a UPS store in Philadelphia, because we went to the UPS store a couple of months ago in the middle of chaos. It was like rush hour, and it was a young woman, and she was fantastic at what she did, able to handle all the pressure and dealing with whatever. And we walked out of there. My wife got her card and said, I'm going to call this woman. My wife runs a nonprofit. She said, like, this is, I'll teach her what she needs to do, but that's the kind of person I need. She wound up hiring him. So I'm just, they're out, the workers are out there. Look for them. People in the service industry.
But you have to be willing. Yeah. I mean, I see all this wish list many times in resumes or in searches, and I was actually talking to my office manager today, I think, or yesterday, and we were, I don't care in paper anymore. I prefer good people.
Yes.
I want loyal people who want to learn, people who really, it's not about the cent, it's about the extra cent. I prefer, and I did it in my career, to accept opportunities where less money, but my opportunity of growth was much bigger, and always pay off, but pay off because I showed up. Yep. And I learned, and I kept learning, and I didn't take sick days. Come on, I had a baby, and I was working from in the delivery room, and then I took half day off.
Yep. There are plenty of workers out there that have the same attitude as you, Lara. It's not, it's not so much of a generational thing. No. The only thing that I can say and again, I've written about this and said this to clients, particularly if you're running a small business, it's all about the culture of your company. And if it's a nice, good place to work. I mean, somebody could leave your company to, make $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year extra somewhere else. But if your company it's a friendly place to work, if you let people bring their dogs to work, I don't know, if you have a flexible, scheduling arrangement, if you have Friday, pizza days or whatever, it's like, you'd be surprised at how many employees value that just as much as getting extra in their paycheck, and will do and be more motivated to work for you. It's all about the right culture in your business.
Absolutely. I always say that you have to design a culture of your company before you have a company.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Something we do, my team is all over the world. So something that we do really fun is a challenge. Every month we have a challenge. The one who won the month before need to choose the new challenge.
What was the challenge? What do you mean? Like, what kind of challenge?
It's like this month, the challenge is each one got the name of someone else. And so I had to describe that person without saying the name. So, and at the end of the month, we have a happy hour.
That's dangerous.
I know, but at the end of the month, we have a happy hours, and we all need to guess who is that person. And
that is hilarious.
So we have these things. We have the most crazy things. Like we send, another one was like the most ridiculous picture that you have, the most embarrassing picture.
That's such a great idea. I'm assuming you guys have done baby pictures as well, right? Because that's
We
always
did baby pictures. We did. You have to choose a place in the world that you would love to live and send the picture, and you have to guess. It's like it's creating that work culture. How much you know your team.
That is so cute. Great idea. It's a great idea. It is,
and the winner gets pizza, which was a big challenge for my project manager because it's hard for my office manager because it's hard to get pizza in different places of the world.
That's really fun. Do you guys ever get together as a group? Like, have you been face to face as a group?
No. I have people from Pakistan to Argentina, all over the world. But we celebrate everything. We have everyone. We celebrate birthdays for everything. We celebrate every holiday of every religion. We celebrate absolutely everything.
That is fantastic. That is great. You know, we should talk separately sometime because my whole company is all remote as well. We've been virtual since 2005. And yeah, so even before virtual was really like the thing to do, we were virtual. And I've had long-term employees and all that, but sometimes I feel like we're the most dysfunctional company on the planet. Like we never see each other as a group. We don't do the kinds of things you do. Maybe because we're just accountants and we're boring.
We'll keep talking about that, but we are definitely we're a very dysfunctional family. They fight like kids sometimes.
That's so funny.
And everyone, Jean, thank you so much for being here, having coffee with me. And to you guys, I will see you next week with more coffee number 5.
Take care.
It was so good to have you here today. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.